right. We will call this meeting of the Maricopa County Planning and Zoning Commission to order at 9:39. I would like to invite everyone to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, thank you. Could we have a roll call by the staff, please?
Chairman Schlesser, Vice Chair Mitchell,
Here.
Commissioner Arnett, Commissioner Dan Zeisen, Commissioner Hernandez,
Here.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Here.
Commissioner Lindblom,
Here.
Commissioner McGee,
Here.
Commissioner Montoya, Commissioner Swart.
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Rosalie. Now we're going to read some announcements, which everyone enjoys. This meeting has been noticed in accordance with Open Meeting Law, ARS Section 38-431. Agendas are available within 24 hours of each meeting in the Maricopa County Planning and Development Office, and are also available on the Planning and Development website 1 week prior to hearing at www.maricopa.gov/planning. Staff reports prepared for each agenda item shall become a part of the permanent record for each case. With respect to hearing process, cases will be considered in the order they appear on the agenda unless otherwise agreed to by the Commission. For each case, the applicant will be given a set amount of time to present. Anyone wishing to speak on a particular case shall fill out a speaker's card for in-person attendance or raise your hand within GoToWebinar. The amount of time allowed for speaking shall be at the discretion of the Commission Chair. Thank you to those who already dropped off their signature speaking cards. Staff will provide the chairman with the names of persons who have registered and noted desire to comment, and those registered participants who have raised their hand. The chairman will call on each named participant one at a time. Chairman will conduct the hybrid in-person and virtual public hearing according to the bylaws and according to the rules established by the chairman regarding public comment. Votes will be done by roll call vote only. Chairman will verbally identify the specific members responsible for all motions and seconds. So now we're going to move on to the minutes for the May 11th meeting. Do we have any comments or concerns from the Commission related to those minutes? Okay, if no comments, then those minutes are approved. We will move on to the consent agenda. I would request staff to present the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, there are 5 items on consent. They are Z 2022-103 in District 4. This is known as the NEC of 195th Avenue and Palm Lane. It's a 4.5 acre site at the northeast corner of 195th Avenue and Palm Lane, being rezoned to C2 CUPD. There is no known opposition and 1 letter of support. The recommendation in paragraph 19 is for approval, subject to conditions A through O. Z 2023-032, Leicester Farm in District 4. It's a special use permit for a wireless communication facility in the Rural 43 zoning district. It's a 1,000 square foot lease site at the southwest corner of Lower Buckeye and Perryville Road. There's no known opposition. The recommendation in paragraph 10 is for approval, subject to conditions A through H. Agenda item 3 is Z 2023-027, known as Burge Auto Mall in District 2. This is a rezone of a 24.6 acre site at the northwest corner of State Route 24 Freeway and Signal Butte Road to C3. There's no opposition. City of Mesa supports this request. Recommendation in paragraph 10 is for approval, subject to conditions A through F. Across the freeway is Z 2023-036, known as Gateway Auto Mall in District 2. This is a 28.5 acre rezone to C3 at the southwest corner of State Route 24 Signal Butte Road. The City of Mesa supports this request. There's no known opposition. The recommendation in paragraph 12 is for approval, subject to conditions A through F. And then finally, Z 2022-105, known as I-10 and Loop 202 digital billboards in District 1. It's a special use permit to convert 2 legal non-conforming billboards on a parcel in the Industrial 3 zoning district to digital faces with some other alterations. It's a 5-acre site northwest of the northwest corner of 56th Street and Pecos Road in the Chandler area. There have been no municipal comments to date. There's no known opposition. The recommendation, paragraph 12, is for approval, subject to conditions A through N. Glad to answer any questions or go into more detail if necessary.
Thank you very much, Darren. Appreciate that. Are there any questions from the commission on any of the consent agenda items?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner McGee.
Yes, Commissioner McGee.
Quick question, and I know I've asked it before. On Leicester Farm Z202332, could you explain the variance that necessitated the special use permit? And by that, I mean, we're going up a lot higher than the standards. Could you just walk me through that again, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner McGee, commissioners, the reason the special use permit is triggered is this particular cell tower has a maximum diameter of 36 inches, where 30 inches is the maximum permitted by right, and it has a 14-foot diameter antenna array, where 8 foot is the maximum by right.
And Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm asking the need for the height to be more. Is that reception or input, output, or multiple cell companies joining in? I'd appreciate clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McGee. Are there any comments from staff related to those inquiries?
It is only 80 feet, which would be permitted by right. I assume the additional girth of the support structure is due to the fact that it's designed to be a monopine, a stealth design with some concealment elements. That's probably because the antenna array is so wide. I'd have to defer to the applicant for that.
No need. No need. That's extremely helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Commissioner McGee. Any other questions related to the consent agenda items today? Okay. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak on the consent agenda items? I don't have any speaker cards related to any of the consent agenda items, I don't believe. Is there anybody on the GoToWebinar that wishes to speak?
We're not aware of any speakers.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Then we will close the public forum on the consent agenda items. Is there any comments from the commission related to consent agenda items? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Chairman Mitchell, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda items number 1 through 5 as presented by staff.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lindblom. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second it. It's Commissioner McGee. You pick.
Okay. Commissioner McGee with the second. We have a motion from Commissioner Lindblom. We will we'll do a roll call then.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Yes.
Commissioner Lindblom,
Yes.
Commissioner McGee,
Yes.
Commissioner Swart,
Yes.
Chairman Mitchell.
Yes.
Chairman, that's an approval by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, thank you very much, Rosalie. And we have one item on our regular agenda today, item number 6. I would ask Daniel if you want to present that one to us.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. Case Z2022019 is a request for a special use permit for a period of 10 years, utilizing the site as a wholesale storage and growing grounds for the adjacent Moon Valley Nursery on a separate parcel in Supervisor District 4. The case has been continued from the April 20th hearing. The subject site is located at 8616 West Pinnacle Peak Road in the Peoria area. The site is zoned Rural 43 and is approximately 4.2 acres. The site lies at the northeast corner of Pinnacle Peak Road and 87th Avenue. Since the April 20th commission hearing, staff received correspondence from part owner of the adjacent parcel of the permitted nursery indicating that she did not authorize the lessee, Moon Valley Nurseries, to demolish a wall that separated her property from the subject property, nor did she authorize access between the two parcels for the continuity of business operations between the two parcels. According to the owner and several neighbors, Moon Valley has essentially expanded the retail operation onto the subject site without authorization from the owner. On May 26th, staff was notified by the original applicant, Adrian Briseño of Marge Architectural Group, that they are no longer representing Moon Valley Nurseries for this request. Staff anticipated that an updated final citizen participation report would have addressed public concerns that were provided to staff and the commission at the previous hearing. However, this was never done. Without proper public input to address issues caused by the operation of the nursery, staff does not support the request. Staff followed up with 3 Moon Valley executives for an update on case materials for this hearing on 2 occasions, both on May 23rd and May 26th. Since we have not received updated revised case material, staff notified Joseph Doherty, special counsel to Moon Valley CEO, on June 5th that we will not support the special use permit. A new site plan narrative and updated citizen participation report was requested by staff to the previous applicant prior to them withdrawing representation. As of this time, staff received 30 letters of opposition to the request. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Do we have any questions from the commission for staff at this time?
Mr. Chairman, quick comment.
Yes, Commissioner McGee.
Very much appreciate staff's efforts in regard to this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McGee. And I echo that as well. It seems like staff certainly worked hard to try to follow up on the commission's recommendations and instructions from the April meeting. Any other questions for staff right now? Okay. Then we'll proceed with in-person speakers, then allow those registered online to speak. After public comment, we'll allow time for rebuttal by the applicant, if the applicant is here. And I'll identify in-person speakers to come up to the podium to present and provide their name and general area of residence for the record. I should note, since this agenda item was continued from the April meeting, unless speakers have watched that hearing, they probably, I would invite speakers, unless they've watched that hearing, to participate. Oh, the commissioners. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that's right. And I should make a clarification that unless the commissioners, if there are any commissioners here that were not part of that April meeting or have not watched it and are up to date on what occurred, they should probably not participate in that discussion beyond what we see today. So I've received notification that it sounds like the applicant is on the way, but we'll get started here. We do have some individuals registered to speak on this topic, so we'll get started with them. And then when the applicant comes, the applicant will be.
Chairman,
Yes.
it's Rachel Applegate. I just wanted to clarify that Joseph Doherty is the special counsel to the CEO for Moon Valley Nurseries. He had messaged saying that he was on the way and that he would be here at approximately 10 a.m., but he was going to dial in on the way in his vehicle. The only issue is if he's dialed in on a telephone line, there's no way for us to unmute him. So if you go forward with testimony, I'm making the assumption that he'll be able to listen into that.
He actually is online, Rachel.
Oh, great.
So,
Thanks,
so
Dan.
I can unmute him.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, great. Then, yeah, I would encourage the applicant, Mr. Doherty, or representative for the applicant, Mr. Doherty, to, if you could unmute him, and we'll get started with his comments.
Mr. Chairman, real quickly.
Yes.
Can we have any commissioner attending today, if they were not here in April, could they confirm that? Because we may not have a quorum.
Okay. Are there any commissioners here that were not at the, or did not watch the meeting from April? And what was the date? April 20th? Okay, so all the commissioners that are in attendance today, including those who dialed in, were at that. Okay, we're good to go then. Thank you, Darren, for clarifying that, and that's good to know. So we're all very informed. David, I would encourage you to, if you could unmute the applicant, and I would invite the applicant to, or the representative from the applicant to identify themselves, and we can go from there.
Mr. Doherty should be online and available to speak.
Yes, thank you. My name is Joseph Doherty. I'm the special counsel to the CEO of Moon Valley Nurseries, and I thank the committee for taking the time to review our application. As Mr. Johnson explained earlier, the engineer that we had working on this project has since is no longer involved in our application. And in getting up to speed on this, it's my understanding that the committee and the commission would like us to engage with the local opposition, as well as the people that commented at the last meeting, which we are, as Moon Valley, more than welcome to do. I would just respectfully request, as we had a change in kind of the professional service provider that is dealing with our application, that we be granted a continuance for 30 days to make contact in order to give a full and comprehensive report to the committee with regard to our application.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Doherty.
May I ask Mr. Doherty a question?
Yes, Commissioner Limbaum, please.
Thank you. Thank you for calling in and letting us know that circumstance change. I tend to be one that is pretty lenient on continuances, but in this particular instance, we were very clear that there was supposed to be dialogue between Moon Valley and the residents in between this process. Can you speak to any correspondences that have occurred? Like, I understand that the engineer was no longer there, but could you just talk a little bit more why we need to go another 30 days? I mean, we have neighbors here again, taking time out of their daily activities, the commission, just trying to be mindful of time. And I'm just looking for any ounce of evidence that you or your client have made a good faith attempt to try to resolve this in the time that we've given between April and now.
Of course. As anyone, I am very cognizant of time, and I apologize for any delay in our application or the covenants that were discussed at the prior meeting. As I said, we had a professional engineer that was working on this application. Coming out of the first hearing, I think we had a plan to make contact with the neighbors, as well as address any public concern at the first council meeting. And from my understanding in reviewing the minutes and listening, that those things are accomplishable. We can do that. And I think the lack of engagement from our professional engineer on the current application kind of created a little bit of a delay. But I can tell you from the company, as well as myself as special counsel, I'm going to personally, make that contact now, and make sure that we can resolve anything we can resolve. But just unfortunately, we had a change of vendor, which resulted in delay, and that's not something that Moon Valley's ever proud of. We pride ourselves on being very expedient with anything that we're doing, but I'm now going to handle it personally. So I can represent to this committee, if given the time, I can make sure that any and every effort that can be made to accommodate any of the concerns that were brought up at the last council meeting will be addressed.
Could I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, please, Commissioner Lindblom.
Could you be specific about some of the things that you think the neighbors' concerns were and how you think you can solve those in that time frame?
Sure. You know, I believe that from the first council meeting that we were present and I was brought up to speed, that there were some concerns about the level of commercial vehicle traffic in the area. That's number one. Number two, I believe there was some concerns about noise with regard to backup trucks or operating at times that were earlier than were or are prescribed by and what is allowed in the jurisdiction. I can speak to the fact that I believe that these concerns, we are able to address those through both operational changes that we've made, and I believe on the site that is directly perpendicular to the site we're discussing now, we have made those operational changes, including, you know, loading our trucks at night instead of in the morning, and making sure that we're in compliance and taking care of any of those noise violations. And I believe some of the other concerns that were brought up at the last committee meeting, we previously addressed and have been working to address since that meeting. We have not just stood by and done nothing in the last couple of meetings. We've been attempting to address operationally at all.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Swart.
I just want to also voice my opinion on this. You know, the neighbors show up, everybody's very cognizant of all the testimony of all these neighbors. And for them now to allege that somehow the engineer would have anything to do with the neighborhood work, it to me is outrageous. I've never seen an engineer run a neighborhood meeting or conduct any inquiries and respond. So I am adamantly against a continuance. The neighbors came in good faith. Everybody's aware of the testimony. I don't believe that this group has taken it very serious. The guy doesn't even show up in person, you know, to ask for this continuance. And it just shows it, to me, it's a disrespect for what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Swart. Appreciate that.
And Chairman Mitchell, did we lose the applicant? Or is he still
I'm here.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to make sure.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner McGee.
Commissioner McGee, can I just ask some questions? I had thanked staff and I continue to thank staff for their follow-up on this. To whom were the notifications addressed? Because there's been fair warning on this is what's going to happen. And then the day of continuance or the day of the final action by the commission, we do appreciate getting the general counsel on the line, but how did staff specifically notify the business of this pending decision?
Thank you, Commissioner McGee. Mr. Johnson, do you have anything to add there?
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioner. Yes, I did. There were multiple instances where staff did reach out to first the applicant and then afterward the executives for Moon Valley. On May 26th was the first time that staff was notified that the original applicant wouldn't be representing Moon Valley. By May 23rd and May 26th, staff did reach out to the Moon Valley executives for any updates to the case for this date. And finally, on June 5th was when I notified Joseph Doherty, because we did not receive updated documents for the case, that we would not support the case on June 5th.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Does that answer your question, Commissioner McGee?
It answers my question. The sense of urgency isn't present here, and there are many violations that are ongoing and outstanding, maybe fixed, maybe not fixed. My comments, I'd like to give the benefit of the doubt. I've learned to do that, but in this case, I simply cannot.
Thank you, Commissioner McGee. Appreciate that.
Chairman Mitchell, could I just get
Yes.
a point of clarity of, we have an applicant that's requesting a continuance. How does that change how we flow the rest of our discussions with residents or anything? Like, do we treat it just like a normal case?
You can't, you can't ask the people here today if they support attending here today, if they support a continuance. I should point out that a lot of what we've heard in testimony is ways to address their operations, but there should not be any ongoing operations. The land use on the subject property, if it's occurring now, is a zoning violation without proper zoning title.
Thank you very much, Darren. To that point, I do want to hear from the opposition as to whether they would support a continuance or not. Before we get to that, I would ask Mr. Doherty, to the point that Darren brought up, is there ongoing operation on the site? It sounds like from what you had mentioned previously that there was, but I just wanted to clarify that with you.
This is David online. It appears that Mr. Doherty, while he's connected to the video, his audio is no longer connected. So I don't know if he can hear, but he does not have the ability to speak, and he just went offline. So
Okay.
he's no longer connected to the hearing. I don't know if that means he's walking up to the building, but he's no longer on the meeting.
Okay, well, maybe we'll see him here in person shortly, but until then, commissioners will have time to talk about this afterwards. But I do want to hear from the neighbors that have driven down here, some of them twice now. So first, I would invite Andrew Patton, if you would like to come speak, Mr. Patton, and please. State your name and general area of residence, if you can. Thank you very much, Mr. Peck. That's a good clarification. So, Mr. Patton and the other three neighbors, if at this time, if all we can address is whether you support the continuance and why or why not.
I do not support the continuance. This has been ongoing for way too long. Good morning, commissioners and Mr. Chairman. My name is Andrew Patton. I live on 87th Avenue on a county island. And when I leave for work early in the morning, hours around 5 a.m., when I leave in the mornings, there are trucks, semi-trucks on 87th Avenue on Pinnacle Peak. There are large dust clouds blowing down the street, sometimes making travel on Pinnacle Peak impossible. Can't see if there's a car coming, which can cause an accident. They're loading trucks with bobcats, just dirt clouds, dust clouds, to the point where Pinnacle Peak is just completely invisible. To clarify dust control, I have to carry a dust control number for my company. I'm not allowed to make dust. I'm not allowed to drive down a dirty road that will create dust on a construction site. Yet these guys seem to make all the dust they seem to want. And it just is aggravating to me, because then I've got to deal with all this dust on the road and the air and our atmosphere where we're living, where our families and children are living. It's quite aggravating. So deliveries are happening early in the morning, and evidently now late at night, we're finding out the noise from it is just ridiculous. So I guess they're not supposed to have vehicles over 10,000 pounds on these residential streets. Yeah, we do. I guess there's a MCCZO 501.2.10 that shouldn't be exceeded. And then hours of operation, 7:30 to 6:30.
I would encourage you, if you're able to, just try to narrow your arguments related specifically to the continuance, if you can.
So anyway, we're tired of it. We're tired of the noise. We're tired of the dust. We're tired of a corporation pushing their way into our neighborhoods, destroying our neighborhoods. So I vote to not continue. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Patton. Are there any questions for Mr. Patton from the commission?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Swart.
I'm going to ask, and maybe this question will go to Mr. Peck because I see what's going to happen. I think we should see if someone's willing to make a motion, which I am certainly willing to, that this case be heard today, because otherwise people are going to testify. And then if there's a motion that passes that this person has to put it on, then the citizens are going to have to speak twice. So I'm just asking if you or Mr. Peck think that's appropriate, because we're going to take a lot of time, even though I know you've asked them to specifically. It's clear that they're tired. They don't want it to be continued. That's very clear to me. So you let me know.
Understood. And yes, comment from Mr. Peck.
What you have in front of you now is a request for a continuance. So anything put on the record is part of the record. It won't be necessary for Mr. Patton, for example, to come up and repeat what he said. You've already heard it. It's in the record. So you can handle it procedurally with a motion to continue, or continue to hear before you decide if you want to take a motion to continue or not continue. But in any event, it's all in the record.
Okay, understood.
And Chairman Mitchell, so essentially they would, if we heard from them again, it would be if we approved a continuance and they came back when we continue later.
Or they could just say up, it's a continued hearing. It's not a separate hearing. So they could just even send an email to staff that says, I stand by my prior comments. It's all part of the record.
Okay, understood. Appreciate that, Mr. Peck. Then to that point, I understand what you say, Commissioner Swart. It obviously is up to you if you make that motion or not. I am probably inclined to hear the other neighbors, but if you'd like to make that motion, you're welcome to, and we can see if we have support for that right now.
Yeah, I'm going to make the motion, because the confusing part is, based on what Mr. Peck just said, if the motion passes, then the citizens have a right to speak after the presenter, because we don't know what he's going to present. So my motion is that this case be here today and not continued, based on all the information from the past and the tremendous opposition from the neighbors, not just the ones that are there today, but the ones in writing, and that this group has just failed to, in my opinion, miserably to follow these processes that we have in place. And there's a reason why we have them. So my motion is to hear the case today.
Mr. Chairman, you don't need a motion not continue. There was a request for continuance. If you're not going to grant it, just
Okay. You just okay. I appreciate. Thank you, Mr. Peck. And for those who are attending online, if you didn't hear Mr. Peck, okay. Commissioner McGee says we did not hear him. So basically, my takeaway is, since there is a request for continuance, not a motion or anything like that, if we don't want to grant that request for a continuance, then we will just hear the rest of the case today, and then we'll make a decision on that case today, whether we vote to recommend to approve or deny. Does that make sense, Commissioner Swart and everyone else?
Yes.
Okay.
So my motion.
Sorry.
Go on. You want me to say my motion again?
Commissioner, Mr. Peck is saving us again.
Chairman, Commissioner Schwartz, only a member of the commission can make a motion. There's no motion to continue. There was a request that the commission entertain a continuance. If the commission does not want to do that, then the commission just would proceed as they would with any other hearing. You only need a motion if someone wants to move to continue.
Okay, then I'll say let's continue.
Okay. Yeah, continue with this hearing, right? Thank you very much, Commissioner Swart, and thank you, Mr. Peck. So we will proceed then. I won't use the word continue anymore today, but we will proceed. Thank you, Mr. Patton, for your comments there. Next, it appears we have a Nancy Paganelli. Nancy, would you like to?
All right, I'm sorry, Chairman Mitchell, just as a point of order, if that is true, why are they being asked to just speak about their opinion on whether this should continue or not? Because we have not made a motion. We have not. Mr. Peck, you want to come back up and answer that? Because I don't believe that's what they should be. We have essentially said, we're moving forward, let them speak.
Correct. However, normally you would ask the applicant to present the case first. If the applicant's not here, that should at least be part of the record, so we know that. But Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lindblom is correct. At this point, you're just conducting the hearing. They can speak as any person would speak on any application. You're not limiting to the continuance anymore. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And appreciate the comments from Mr. Patton as well. If there's anything else you wish to add, maybe lean over to your neighbor and whisper those in the ear of your neighbor, and they can come up and give that, because we'll move on to Ms. Paganelli right now, and you will have 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Well, my name is Nancy Paganelli, and I have lived in the area of Pinnacle Peak Road and 87th Avenue nearly 50 years. So when I first moved there were 40 homes. So I'm here because I'm here to support Juan and Valentino Toledo because I live directly across the street. But more importantly, I went through this type of personal trauma a few years ago when people moved into the house next to me and then decided to build a 3-bay garage and open up a 24-hour auto shop. Without going into all the years of misery and the lack of being able to get anyone to understand or help, I finally got help from one man in the county zoning area of Maricopa County, and it took 3 years to solve. And I experienced lack of sleep, lack of understanding why I could not get help, and most importantly, the ability to live in peace and tranquility, which should belong to any homeowner. I know what Juan is going through. Your life is spent recording, filming, documenting, all hoping that someone would understand and do something about it. Your life is now not yours. It belongs to trying to get back to that peace and tranquility you once had. I remember when the nursery came here, I remember thinking, oh no, this means other businesses will try to come in and disrupt this lifestyle that all of us have come to the country to find. We had already fought and won keeping a convenience store gas station from being built on the corner of Pinnacle Peak and 83rd Avenue. Now what were we going to get? We, and I am going to assume everyone here, wants to be able to at least go home from work and find that peace and tranquility in your own home. Juan and Valentina have had their lives disrupted for a very long time as they try to get back what the nursery people have apparently not understood. People search and find the home they want to live in, and they have the expectation that they can live normally. But having to deal with the infringement on their lives when a business lacks the understanding of how they disrupt the surrounding area with noises, vehicles beginning work before dawn is wrong.
Thank you,
Please,
Mrs.
when you go
Paganelli.
home this evening, think about the peace and tranquility you are expecting to have when you enter into your own house. Don't allow this business to continue as it has. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your insight. We appreciate that, Ms. Paganelli. Next, we'll have Mark Del Maestro. Mark, please join us. And if you could, state your name and general area of residence for the record.
My name is Mark Del Maestro. I'm a combat Vietnam veteran and I'm an American patriot, and I believe in Jesus Christ and God, and I'm not ashamed to say any of it. The Constitution clearly states we the people have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and our homes are our castles. And what the Moon Valley Nursery should do is move. They can afford to sell that property and buy commercial property, because that's why there are zoning laws to protect our homes, our castles. That's why there are zoning laws. And I'm part of a grassroots group that's hoping to make a law that anyone who takes the oath of office, who raises their hand to keep and defend the Constitution of Arizona and the United States, if they don't do it, they could be charged with a felony. And these kinds of meetings would disappear, because those that have been entrusted to protect our homes would be maybe sent to jail, and they won't want to do that. So I know that that law may be trying to get a permit to the Stairway to Heaven. It's how far away that is, but that's the goal now, because the stuff that's going on now is horrendous, and our freedoms and our families and our country and our God are in jeopardy. And there are those of us that will fight against it. So I implore you to ask Moon Valley, they can move, they can afford to move and buy commercial property and still run their business and still be profitable and not affect the homes of the people in the neighborhood and give themselves a bad name. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Del Maestro, and thank you for your service. Next, we will have Mr. Juan Toledo, please.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. We meet once again. I wish I had good news, but I don't. We don't want Moon Valley. We don't even want to talk to them anymore. You guys gave them an opportunity to resolve this issue, and that totally ignores. Sure. The biggest thing that we have is the continuous noise. You ask a question whether they're still operating. They haven't stopped. They haven't stopped at all. We talked about hours of operation last time. You know what that means? Nothing. They were there this morning at 5:10 with the gates open. And the RU43 states vehicles over 10,000. I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. Let me put myself in their position. I bought my land, right? I'm a legal owner and I live in that lot. If I want to start a business, I have to follow RU43, where it states no mechanical equipment or power tools shall be used except for that of normal household operation. And the noise should be considered to have, if the noise should be considered to have a adverse impact to the surrounding residential neighborhood. Other than a normal operation, us mowing the lawn or whatever. They don't care about that. How about this one? This is the key. This is what is unbelievable to me, that we're actually here talking about this. RU43 states the business shall not generate any noise if the noise should be considered to have a adverse impact to the surrounding residential neighborhood per Maricopa County Noise Ordinance. Vibration, smoke, dust, odor, heat, glare, electrical interference, TV and that kind of stuff. Should not, area that should not exceed that of normal produced in a dwelling in a zoning strictly used for residential purposes. That's where we're at. It is insane. I made the comment last time I was here that having Moon Valley behind it's like having a construction company 24 hours a day with no end in sight. If I'm permitted, this is what I deal with every day. Every day. This happens up to 100 times a day. We're a prisoner, and these are old files. I mean, just pick one. Here's another one. By the way, this is from yesterday. You would think that a day before this meeting that they will at least quiet down. Not at all. Zero.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toledo.
Let me wrap up real quick. It's hard to convey how wrong this special use permit is to us and to our neighborhood in 2 minutes. The negative impact of approving the special use permit is unmeasurable. It will destroy the rights to quiet and peaceful enjoyment of our home and property we have worked so hard for. This type of operation belongs in a commercial area, not in my neighborhood, and honestly, not in anybody's neighborhood. Please do not approve the special use permit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toledo. And I should have asked of the commission, are there any questions for Mr. Toledo or the other presenters at this time? Okay. David, do we have any raised hands on the GoToWebinar?
As you ask it, yes, I do have a raised hand. Kenny Murphy.
Okay. If you could unmute Mr. Murphy, and Mr. Murphy, if you could identify yourself and your general area of residence for us. You'll have 2 minutes to share your comments.
Good morning. I already stated my name is Kenny Murphy, and I live just adjacent to Moon Valley's extension, if you will, at 87th Avenue in Monte Lindo. My wife and I moved out here about 22 years ago, and by way of quick background, I also spoke against the initial special use permit when Moon Valley came out here 22 years ago at the current retail location that the Humes leased to them. I think very simply it's this. I think the case has already been presented pretty succinctly by the other neighbors. And really the only thing I have to add at this point is that there's and I hope the commission is able to see this, there is a blatant disregard by Moon Valley Nursery to the neighborhood and to everybody surrounding this area. And it started 22 years ago. I sat back and watched this establishment go into business, start to disrupt things, traffic flow increasing, rodent issues, everything that have already been mentioned. And then yet a couple of 2 or 3 years ago, the Blakes, who were the original owners of Moon Valley, purchased the 5 acres that we are now speaking of and purchased it under Julie Blake's name. This was not done on the up and up and never has been. If you look into some of the history with Moon Valley Nursery, if this was a legitimate business that was taking into account the needs of the neighborhood and willing to listen, we likely would not be sitting here having this meeting today because the neighbors would have had their input then. But they bought that property, they started grubbing and grading and stripping it from almost day one without permits. I was one of the neighbors who called and voiced a complaint at that time, and they proceeded right on down the pike to then install a well and proceed as if nothing had happened in blatant disregard to violations that had already been called in. This isn't an issue where they were just trying to do business and are ignorant to the situation. They are doing business as they always have been and take advantage of everyone around them and at their expense.
Thank you, Mr.
I don't
Murphy.
know what more I can add to this at this point, but I hope very sincerely that the commission looks at this for what it is and votes accordingly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Murphy. Does the commission have any questions for Mr. Murphy? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Murphy. We appreciate your input here. Do we have anybody else with a raised hand online at this time?
Oh, there is no one else. I do. Mr. Doherty, I think, is online. It's hard to tell for sure, but it does appear that he is back online. So.
Okay, then if Mr. Doherty, if you can hear us and you can unmute, we'll give you 2 minutes to rebut what's been said.
Yeah, it's sorry, this is David. Yeah, he shows connected, but then it lists him as offline, and I have unmuted him. I don't know what else. He needs to unmute on his side, or I'm not exactly sure how he can connect if he's. It does look like he might be trying. His status just changed, but
if you can hear us,
he's still muted on his side. So I don't know what changed for him, but I can't do anything else at this point from my side.
Okay.
There, he may be through now.
Mr. Pack, yes.
Thank you. I just want on the record, this meeting was noticed at 9:30. The chairman conducted business, then called the matter in the ordinary course. No one has appeared for the applicant. Mr. Doherty has attempted to appear, but in the brief time he had only requested a continuance. He was offered the opportunity to present his case. No case has been presented, but the opportunity was offered.
Thank you very much for clarifying that, clarifying the record. Mr. Peck?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Swart?
I agree with Mr. Peck, and I think we should proceed. This meeting started at 9:30, and it's beyond me to think that someone wouldn't have showed up in person. So I say let's proceed.
Okay, I appreciate that input, Mr. Swart. With that, we will close the public forum, and I'll invite the commission to discuss. I'll lead off here. I think it was actually my first meeting chairing was the first time this case came before us in April. And the main takeaway from that was we had a great deal of opposition show up and express their concerns. And we implored the applicant to meet with the neighbors and to discuss whether there'd be a way to harmoniously allow this to proceed. And we would consider it at that time. That, it sounds like, has not happened. And I understand that there's sometimes is a change of staffing and representation of the applicant. I absolutely understand that. It sounds like that occurred about a month ago or right around a month ago, in plenty of time in order to formally request a continuance related to the change of counsel. That did not occur in time. And then here again today, we see that the applicant wasn't able to appear in person. I'm a defender of private property rights, but you have to follow the proper procedure, and if you want to obtain a permit, and that has not happened here. And the neighbors have presented a case in advance, so it will be my position to vote for a recommendation of denial of this special use permit. But happy to hear whatever the other commissions would like to share.
Mitchell?
Yes,
I'd like
Commissioner
to
Limbaugh.
make a motion to deny Z 2022-019 as presented by staff.
Okay, Commissioner Lindblom has a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Right, Commissioner Swart with the second. If we could do a roll call.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawrence, Commissioner Lawrence, Commissioner Lindblom,
Yes. That's to deny, correct? Because I made
Yes.
the motion to deny. Yes.
Commissioner McGee,
Yes.
Commissioner Swart,
Yes, and just a quick explanation of my vote. To me, this is outrageous, and the county needs to take immediate action of enforcement on this for these neighbors. And in all the years I've been involved in the zoning space, I've never seen a more egregious behavior by an operator or owner of a property. Thank you.
Chairman Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawrence, are you on the line?
Yes.
So for Chairman Mitchell, for clarity, the question was, are you online? He said yes. Can we just make sure that his vote is the next yes or no? Okay.
It's a yes.
Chairman, that's a denial by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you very much, Rosalie. Thank you to the neighbors for sharing your input here. Thank you to the commissioners. I understand this meeting was probably way too long for what we discussed, so apologies for that. And thank you to staff and for Mr. Peck. Any additional matters, Darren, on this? Okay, then I will conclude at, what do we have here? I will conclude this at 10:37.
Thank you.
Thank you.